As I talk about this game, last generation of games, why the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PS Vita, and Nintendo Switch is this generation. I forgot. Nintendo, it was the Wii U. I forgot that console even existed. The Wii U, 3D, and 3DS. This generation is probably the most disappointing console generation of all time. There were lots of games that were massive disappointments from start to finish. And yes, some of these games may not be on here, like Bubsy the Woolly Strikes Back, but yes, there's a lot of disappointing games of this generation. So, why is this the worst generation of all time? What makes it the worst? Even worse than the time when the gaming industry crashed? Well, I'll tell you why. Tons of disappointing games. Of course, we all know that this generation had tons of hyped up, massive hyped up games. Okay, we'll talk about The Last of Us Part 2, No Man's Sky, Mass Effect Andromeda, Fallout 76, and we're even talking about by Nintendo, we'll talk about Nintendo later, but you had such big games like Fallout 76, Battlefield 5, we have big franchises tank that for the first time the Last of Us Part 2 had awful and piss poor legs. Even after Game of the Year, there's still like one or two copies saying at itself because no one's buying the game. The Avengers game flopped. Mortal Kombat 11 got negative reception from fans for the first time in the Mortal Kombat series, which was unheard of. No Man's Sky was a massive failure. There were tons of indie failures like not Banjo Free. Yako Lele, Mighty Number 9. Okay, we had games like that. 2014 was just a mess of a year for gaming, mostly relying on ports and remasters and remakes for the PS4, PS, and Xbox One. There weren't really many games from that year that sold that well. We had the best-selling game of the year was Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which were remakes. And then the next best-selling game was GTA 5 for the PS4, and then Call of Duty Advanced Warfare for the PS4 as well. And we had Nintendo, and of course, we'll go back to Nintendo quickly, but worst gaming generation of all time. The PS60 and PS3 had the fair share of had some disappointing games as well. Alien Colonial Marines, but it had so many games that were, masterclass of gaming. What are the best games of this generation? Best games of last generation. Last generation. So, the PS4 and Xbox One. Okay? The last generation of games, okay, these are considered the best games. Both of them are exclusive to two consoles, the Nintendo Wii U and the PS4. Because of course the Wii U existed. Most of Nintendo's games, of course, are world top class. A lot of in-house Sony games, except for The Last of Us Part 2, were mostly top class. You had Witcher Free. We had, of course, all of, the Souls games and Born games and those types of games. Overwatch released. But also, Cyberpunk 2077. I forgot that game even released. But last generation, there weren't really that many good games. I'm sorry to tell you guys, okay? We had 2014, we had a lot of year of buggy games, 2014. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I think, is the basic game on here. Assassin's Creed Syndicate was a massive buggy mess, but still sold 2 to 3 million copies. Cold War was a bad disappointment as well. The fact that the most popular games of the year about stupid bean people should be alarming to people. And so when people should be like, oh my god, these are the best games of the year, this would be alarming that a game about bean people is considered better than, blockbuster games like Cyberpunk 2077 and Watch Dogs Legion, and gaming sales are actually at the all-time low in terms of game sales. Okay, FIFA, they had it coming to them for a long time. Okay, Madden, NBA, those games are practically the same exact game every year. I'm talking about games like Crash 4 not selling too well. Star Wars Squadrons 2020 is also yet another forgettable year in gaming. Okay, the only games that people remember for 2020 is Among Us, Fall Guys, and Animal Crossing. Those are the only games people are going to remember from this year of gaming. Okay, 2019 was not that memorable of a year either. Yes, it had a strong start with Kingdom Hearts and And of course, oh yeah, also Final Fantasy remake, but of course you can only play it on Sony's console. But 2019, of course, had the Kingdom Hearts game and Resident Evil remake, and after that, and Sekiro, that was a very strong start to the year. But other than that, what games released? Call of Duty, Fortnite released in 2018. What and 2018 was a big year in gaming. It was. But again, most of the best games, some of the games I bought were remakes of PS1 games. Like, what the hell is going on? You had game after game disappointment here. So we have this generation of games. Destiny, disappoint is on the list. That was PS4. No Man's Sky. Again, most of these games are much younger than the newer gen games. But number 9, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 for R36, of course. And we'll get to Nintendo in a moment. Mass Effect Andromeda, Elder Scrolls Online was also on consoles. Was also put on consoles as well. Here as well. Gundam, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, Halo 5, Watch Dogs, The Last of Us Part 2. These are games that were supposed to define this generation, and Star Wars Battlefront. Even Kingdom Hearts 3 is on this list, despite it being considered one of the best games. One of the best games of the generation is considered disappointing. Assassin's Creed Unity, not Assassin's Creed Syndicate. That was the 360 versions. And WWE 2K, the last WWE game, The Order 1886. Again, there's a lot of Battlefront 2, Destiny 2. There's a lot of newer gen games that are on this list. Of course, there are lots of games that were disappointing on the 360 and PS3. Lots of games that were disappointing, but some of the most well-received games like Doom 2016, Overwatch, and of course The Last of Us Part 2 by the critics are on this list of the most disappointing games. And now let's get to Nintendo, what we have all been waiting for. So the 3DS, I think, has been Nintendo's most disappointing handheld. You guys can disagree with me all you want. But the 3DS, I think, was Nintendo's most disappointing console of all time. Besides the Wii. Okay, the Wii, I think, was more disappointing, but what were the best games? Lots of the games on the 3DS were very disappointing. A lot of games on 3DS were very disappointing compared to the predecessors. What went wrong with the 3DS? Okay, Mario Kart 7 was not as good as Mario Kart DS, was not as good as that game. Okay, New Super Mario Bros. 2, not as good as New Super Mario Bros. 1. Okay, there were some games that were a step up above the predecessors, that were just as good as the predecessors. Animal Crossing, Smash Bros. And Tamagotchi Life were probably some of the best games released for that console. But a lot of the games released on the console were pretty disappointing. Okay, pretty disappointing. And of course, Pokemon, or Alpha Sapphire and Red Ruby are some of my favorite Pokemon games. The Kirby games are pretty disappointing as well. Kirby Battle Robot was actually better than the last one. But again, it was not saying much because the last Kirby game before that was not that great. The Mario Party games are all disappointment. And it's just most of the 3DS games were not that great or not that engaging. Were not that amazing. They weren't that great or amazing. And then we got 2015 3DS games. Okay, that was probably the worst year in Nintendo history. 2015 to 2016. Okay, Nintendo, was basically just pointing out games that nobody was gonna buy. Oh, let's not forget Mystery Dungeon and Paper Mario. Two franchises that I loved before Sticker Style and, of course, Gates of Infinity and Radiant Super Mystery Dungeon released. All three games were really disappointing in their own rights. Paper Mario Sticker Style was very disappointing, and of course in 2015 we had Super Mystery Dungeon and Triforce Heroes, two games that were very much disappointing as well. I'm not really a big fan of Zelda, so I played the two Zelda games. They were pretty good, but I played them last year, so I can't really count them for the best 3DS games yet. But and of course Yoshi's New Island was very worse than Yoshi's Island DS. It's just every single game that released on the 3DS just ended up somehow disappointing in some way or some form. The Wii U was much more different. The Wii U was just a commercial failure, and that's why the Wii U was disappointing. Most of the best Wii U games can be played on the Switch. Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, Super Mario 3D World. The best games that currently can be played, Mario Smash Bros, Splatoon, and Mario Maker got better sequels on the Switch. you know, Super Mario Bros. U, and then of course most of these games, the first game that shows up that isn't playable yet on the Switch or got a better sequel is Nintendo Rad. So the Switch was overall a disappointing console, and especially in 2016 and 2015, when Nintendo didn't really care anymore and released garbage like Star Fox Zero and Color Splash. Mario Party continued to be disappointing because Nintendo didn't give that much crap about that franchise. Nintendo just kind of just gave up on the Wii U around 2015 to 2016. After Splatoon Mario Maker released, Nintendo like, we don't care anymore. Wii U, yeah, no one cares about you anymore. You know, they were even shutting down Mario Maker. It's one of the saddest moments that I can't upload any more of my levels anymore. Some of my horrible levels I made, of course. And you know, a lot of these games are also on the Nintendo Switch. Which again, I own some of these games also on the Nintendo Switch. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, I did not play it on the Wii U. I put it on the Nintendo Switch. Mario Kart 8, I have it both on the Wii U and Nintendo Switch. Basically, I have both versions of the game. Basically, the Wii U was just the Wii U. It disappointed everybody. It disappointed even Nintendo themselves that they rushed out their next generation of consoles. That's why the Switch is not as powerful as current gen consoles, because Nintendo had to release something that wasn't the Wii U. And Nintendo Switch was a massive success. And yes, the Nintendo Switch is technically considered next generation, like the PS5 and Xbox Series X. So Nintendo will probably release the next generation of consoles in 2023. Wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, the Nintendo Switch has been a massive success and has been way better of a console than the Wii U. Okay, Nintendo Switch had groundbreaking games. Yes, a lot of the games on Nintendo Switch were just ports or remastered, but those games are already top-class games to begin with. Except for Sword and Shield, those games suck. But Animal Crossing New Horizons, as much as people hate the game for its save features, did help many people during the pandemic. Breath of the Wild and Smash Bros. And Odyssey are some of the best games, probably some of the best games of all time. And Fortnite, yeah, that piece of crap is on everything. But yeah, we had world-class games like Minecraft and third-party games that you would never see on Nintendo console, like Skyrim and Overwatch on the console. It was overall, and of course, Pokemon just got worse, but you can blame Game Freak for that. Game Freak, don't know what they did to Pokemon, but they ruined Pokemon for me, at least. But again, third-party games like Mortal Kombat, Overwatch, and Skyrim, for example, released Nintendo consoles for the first time. Doom even released the Nintendo Switch. Oh yeah, we're not going to talk about the Arc port on the Nintendo Switch. That was a laughable port. I think everybody knows that version's probably the worst version. But yeah, we had Blizzard. Square Enix came back to support Nintendo for the first time. Blizzard surprisingly became one of Nintendo's biggest supporters on their console, along with Bethesda. And I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft continues to allow Bethesda to port the games of Nintendo consoles, considering that Microsoft is pretty friendly towards Nintendo right now. Considering they don't really see Nintendo as competition, really only Sony. There has been rumors for a while that the Halo the Master Chief Collection will be coming to Nintendo Switch soon, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is true as well. Which means, yep, Halo will be unplayable for the first time outside of a Microsoft-owned system. Yeah, that includes PC, because most PC is run by Windows, which means, yes, PC is owned by Microsoft as well. So, most PC is run by Windows, Microsoft owns Windows, which is 90% of PC users. So, yeah, basically it's just Microsoft is pouring their games on a first-party device, basically. So, yep, there we go. Nintendo, the most disappointing console generation of all time. And yep, this generation has that. Hopefully might be way better, but I don't really think it will be, considering that we'll probably see more gritty and buggy and rushed out games for the holidays. But last generation was kind of a disappointing generation as a whole. Most people we all know the games that were disappointing on last generation of consoles, and that's basically it. Goodbye.